Okay, what's the buzz with the honeybees? So raise your hand if you're scared of honeybees. Yeah, I am too. And who agrees with me that the bees need saving? Yeah. So now our question then becomes, what is the best way to save the honeybees and to protect them? So colony collapse disorder started in 2008, and it has since fluctuated over time. And currently in 2020, we are having a high number of cases. Colony collapse disorder is causing about 1/3 of America's honeybees to die, and they're just like disappearing. We don't know the specific cause, but we do know like there are some possible causes. And in like our agriculture, we have systemic pesticides and monoculture, which are helping colony collapse disorder. And then mites and viruses, we have the Varroa Mite. So we're gonna watch a beekeeper kind of explain what systemic pesticides are.
With the newer style pesticides, the systemic.
Good grammar and spelling are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire,
Systemics, you can have exposure and have no symptoms for many months. But when the symptoms do occur, it's devastating. Products that are being used right now have been tested and found to be safe around bees. And that's true on a lethal dose. When the bees go to the flower, it's not enough product to kill them. But the issue of what's brought back to the hive and what's fed to the bees in their developmental stages is not only not required to be studied, all that research is absent. It doesn't exist. What we're concerned about.
good grammar and spelling are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire,
About is low-level sublethal doses over a long period of time and what effect that has on the health of the bee.
But measuring the sublethal damage done by pesticides was challenging. Marion Fraser, a research scientist at Penn State University, began to explore whether pesticides, and particularly these new systemic pesticides, could explain the nation's dwindling honeybee population.
In order to look at the impact of pesticides, we have to collect samples. And so we collect these samples of either honey or pollen, or in the field we might collect samples of bees and or wax. The initial question was, are pesticides, and in particular systemic pesticides, causing CCD? What we did was participate in the large CCD project, and from that we found an incredible amount of pesticides. And the question then became much more complicated. Yes, the pesticides are there, there's no doubt. What is the impact of those pesticides?
Okay, so like they said, like the systemic pesticides are built into the plants, and the pesticides, when they get brought back to the hive, they are causing the bees to forget their different tasks and where their hive is. Legal action is going to be required to remove systemic pesticides from farms, and according to Ian Graber Steele, there was a bill in 2019 that was going through Congress. However, it had some problems, so it was not passed. Monoculture. This is a strawberry monoculture farm, and this creates a lot of challenges for bees. Bees need a diverse amount of food, and so it's hard for them to get all the nutrients they need. There's also, like, if you were a bee, like flying, you would probably get lost, especially if you forgot where your hive was from systemic pesticides. America thrives on monoculture, and it's unreasonable to get rid of it 100%. but there should be some more balance. And this quote says that, like, instead of a monoculture, we should let the bees make the most of their amazing capacity to search the landscape and go where the flowers are. Next, we have the Varroa Mite, and this is the Varroa Mite. So a queen bee will lay its larvae, and then the bee workers will come bring it food, and it has a Varroa Mite attached to it. The Varroa Mite will come in, and once the brood chamber is closed, the Varroa Mite will start to hatch, and it will feed on the larvae. And then when the bee hatches from its chamber, it will have like viruses, and it will not be able to survive. So this bee, its wings are like gone because of the Varroa Mite killed them. And so there are 3 different solutions to the Varroa Mite. Natural selection, which would be to just let the best bees survive and reproduce. However, this will take a long time, and our honeybee populations will diminish for a while. Pesticides, so the beekeepers would put the pesticides in the hives, and the pesticides would then kill the Varroa Mite. This is really tedious for the beekeepers to do, and they have to swarm their hives for them. And then bee breeding, so they look at different beehives, and they see which bees are able to bite off the legs of the Varroa Mite. And then they take that queen and they breed it, but it's not 100% guaranteed that you'll get the right bees because the males don't always have the same gene to kill the Varroa Mite. And bee breeding also causes problems because the beehives need genetic diversity in their hives, and bee breeding doesn't allow as much diversity. I believe that systemic pesticides should be banned and other pesticides should be regulated. I think that when they spray the pesticides on the farms, that they should make sure that all bees are removed from the area so they are not affected by the pesticides sprayed on. I think that monoculture should be discouraged and local farms should be encouraged to help with keeping sustainable bees. And then I think beekeepers should balance natural selection and pesticides to protect from the Varroa Mite. So beekeepers would just let the bees live and try to fight off the Varroa Mite, but if they notice that their colony is dying, then they can use pesticides to help. So what can we all do to help save the bees today? You can grow your own garden. This is my brother's garden. And plant a diverse amount of flowers so that the bees can get the nutrients they need. You can also support your local beekeepers and farms. And one other thing is you can sign this petition to ban systemic pesticides in the U.S. You don't have to, but it's a small petition that is close to its goal to help ban systemic pesticides. And that's my website.
Don't have to keep it on for questions. Do I have to keep this on for questions?